AITA for moving out overnight after my parents pressured me into free childcare? I am 25 years old and I have been teaching second grade at a local public elementary school for about a year. My name is Claire Bennett, and until recently I lived with my parents in their house in a quiet gated suburban community on the outskirts of a major city. The exact same house where I grew up, the same bedroom with the faded purple walls that I painted when I was 14. The arrangement seemed fair enough when I moved back in with them after college. I paid them $600 a month for rent, bought all my own groceries, and helped with things around the house. I did the laundry, cleaned, and helped my mom organize her garage sales. The plan was simple: live with them for a couple of years, save money, and then look for a place of my own. Nothing complicated. But to understand how everything got ruined, you have to meet my sister Amber. She is 32, 7 years older than me, and has always been my parents' favorite. Always. Amber dropped out of college twice. The first time she said she did not feel inspired by her major. The second time she complained that the professors were too demanding. Both times my parents paid her full tuition. Both times that money simply vanished when she stopped studying. Meanwhile, I worked at Subway for 2 years to save up for college. I did not start studying until I was 20 because I had to save every single dollar. Even so, I had to take out student loans to cover the rest. My parents never offered to help me pay for anything. Amber has never been able to hold a job for more than 6 months. She always has some excuse: that her boss was rude, that the work was boring, that her coworkers were unbearable. My parents never confronted her about it. Instead of doing that, they just kept rescuing her. They paid the rent for whatever apartment she was living in at the time. They fixed her car when it broke down, paid her traffic tickets, and gave her cash every time she asked for it. I never said anything about how unfair it was. What for? They had decided a long time ago who mattered more to them. So I was living my quiet life, teaching second graders, coming home around 3 in the afternoon, grading notebooks, planning my lessons. It was fine, not exciting but fine. Until one night everything changed. It was a Tuesday. Mom had made spaghetti for dinner. We were all sitting around the table when Amber walked in. She had a weird smile on her face, as if she had a big secret. "I have news," she said, sitting down and grabbing a plate. "I am pregnant." The room went completely silent. I looked at my parents, waiting for them to react with concern. Amber had been dating a guy for maybe 2 months. She had no job, she was barely keeping her life together as it was. But instead of worry, my mom's face lit up. "Oh my God, a baby is wonderful." My dad stood up and hugged Amber. "Congratulations, sweetheart. That is incredible news." I just sat there with my fork halfway to my mouth, completely confused. "What about the dad?" I finally asked. Amber shrugged. "He is not in the picture anymore. He disappeared as soon as I told him." I waited for my parents to say something. Anything, pointing out that raising a baby alone without a job and without money maybe was not the best situation. But they did not. "We are going to help you with everything," Mom said, reaching across the table to grab Amber's hand. "You are not alone in this. We need to start planning," Dad added. "You are going to need a place to stay. The basement. We can remodel it, turn it into a decent apartment for you and the baby with a kitchenette," Mom said excitedly. "And we can paint it whatever color you want." They were already solving all her problems just like they had always done. Over the next few weeks, my parents threw themselves completely into remodeling the basement. They were using money from their retirement savings to pay for everything. New drywall, plumbing for the kitchenette, fresh paint, new flooring. I heard them talking about how much it was costing, but they never seemed worried about it. I tried to stay out of it. This was Amber's situation. And if my parents wanted to keep giving her everything like always, that was their decision. I figured at least she would be in the basement in her own space and it was not really going to affect me. I was wrong. About 2 months after Amber's announcement, Mom started with the comments. "You should spend more time with your sister. She is going through a tough time right now." "I work all day, Mom, and in the afternoons I have to plan lessons and grade. She feels lonely, Claire. She has no one to lean on." The way she said it, looking right at me, made it clear she thought I should be that person. Dad started too. He would slip comments into random conversations. "You should be grateful for what you have, Claire. Not everyone is as lucky as you." Lucky. As if having a job and paying for my own things was some kind of privilege instead of a basic responsibility. One afternoon I got home from work and heard my parents talking in the kitchen. I was about to walk in when I heard my name. Amber is going to need a lot of help when the baby is born, Mom was saying. Well, we all pitch in, Dad replied. You, me, and Claire. Especially Claire. She does not have kids, she does not have a boyfriend, she has no real obligations outside of work. She gets off at 3 every day. That is the perfect schedule to help out with the baby. I froze there in the hallway. They were already planning my life for me, deciding what I was going to do without even asking. I went to my room without saying anything. Amber started coming over more often after that. She would show up around dinner time, complain about how hard pregnancy was, and then look at me and say things like, "You are so lucky to have a stable job and not have to deal with all this." Yeah, so lucky to have worked for everything I have instead of having it handed to me on a silver platter. 5 months into her pregnancy, things got worse. We were eating pizza one night, all sitting around the table. Mom had this serious look on her face. "We need to have a family conversation," she said. I put my slice down on the plate, already dreading whatever was coming. "Amber is going to need help with the baby," Mom continued. "A lot of help. And since Claire already lives here and is so good with kids because she is a teacher and gets home at 3 every day, well, it just makes sense." "Makes sense for what?" I asked, even though I already knew. "For you to be the nanny," Dad said. "You are already here. You have experience with children. It is the most logical choice." "I have a full-time job," I said slowly. "I cannot take care of a newborn on top of teaching." "You get home at 3, Mom said. "Most people work until 5 or 6. You have a lot of free time." "I have to grade, plan lessons, answer emails from parents. My work does not end when I leave the building." Amber looked up from her phone for the first time. She had a little smirk on her face. "I did not know helping your sister was such a big problem for you, Claire. It is not about that. I have my own life, my own responsibilities." "That is incredibly selfish," Mom said, her voice growing sharper. "We are family. Family helps each other." "And let us not forget," Dad added, "that you do not pay market value rent. You pay $600 to live here. Market rent would easily be $1,500, so you owe us." I just stared at them. "I pay you rent, I buy my own food, I help around the house all the time. I am not living here for free." "If you are not willing to help your sister," Mom said in a cold tone, "then we need to talk about your living situation. Maybe it is time to start charging you what you should be paying." I could not believe what I was hearing. They were threatening to raise my rent if I did not become Amber's free nanny. I got up from the table without saying a word and went to my room. I closed the door firmly behind me. The next few days were miserable. My parents kept making passive-aggressive comments every chance they got. "Must be really nice having so much free time after work," Dad would say when I was in my room grading notebooks. "Some people just do not understand what family means," Mom would mutter loud enough for me to hear. Amber acted like she owned the house. She came and went as she pleased, left her things lying around everywhere, and ate my groceries. I bought vegetables, fruits, and organic items at the natural food store because I was trying to eat healthy. Amber just helped herself to whatever was in the fridge. One day I came home and found her eating my strawberries straight out of the container. "Those are mine," I told her. "Mom said I could have them." "Do not be so dramatic, Claire." Before I could respond, Mom appeared in the kitchen. "Claire, I need you to apologize to your sister right now for making her feel uncomfortable. This is her house too. You need to learn to share." I simply turned around and walked away. There was no point in arguing. A little while later things got even worse. My parents sat me down and told me that with Amber moving in full time, their expenses were going up. If I was not willing to help with the baby, they were going to have to raise my rent to $1,500. Dad even showed me an Excel spreadsheet he had made, pointed at numbers, and explained how much diapers cost, how much formula would be, how much Amber needed help with bills. That was when I knew I had to leave. I did not have that much in savings, but I remembered my coworker Jenna had mentioned that a friend of hers needed a roommate. I sent Jenna a message that same night. She replied the next day. There was a room available in an apartment across town for $850 a month with utilities included. It was not luxurious, but it would be mine. I told Jenna I would take the room. I started packing in secret. I stuffed things into trash bags and hid them in the trunk of my Honda Civic under a blanket. I took pictures of everything I owned in my bedroom, my furniture, my TV, my laptop, all my electronics. I also photographed the serial numbers just in case there were any problems later. My plan was to leave while everyone was busy, move out quietly, and leave a letter explaining everything. Clean, simple, no drama, but I made a very silly mistake. I left my laptop open in my room with the letter I had written still on the screen. My mom walked into my bedroom and read it. Then she printed it. When I got home from school that day, my parents were waiting for me in the living room. Dad had the printed letter in his hand like it was evidence of a crime. "What is this?" he demanded. "Are you planning to abandon us?" There was no point in lying. I found a place to live. I am moving out at the end of the month. Mom started crying, real tears streaming down her face. "How can you do this to us, to your sister? She needs you, Claire. She needs a nanny. I am not volunteering for that job." Dad's face turned red. "We gave you so much by letting you live here. We helped you get on your feet after college. I pay rent, I buy my own food, I have supported myself since I was 20. I am not your backup plan for Amber's mistakes." Neither of them had anything to say to that. They just stared at me with these angry, disappointed faces. The following days were incredibly awkward. My parents barely spoke to me, except to make comments about how I was betraying the family. Amber acted as if nothing was happening. She kept arriving with boxes of packages, filling the basement with baby furniture from a big box store, taking up more and more space. Moving day finally arrived. I had arranged for Jenna to come help me load everything. I thought I would be able to slip out early while Amber was still asleep and my parents were in their morning routine. But Dad appeared at the top of the stairs just as I was carrying out the first box. "What is going on?" he demanded. He followed me outside, raising his voice the whole way. "You are abandoning your family after everything we have done for you." Mom came to the door in her robe, crying again. "What about Amber and the baby?" "Amber and the baby are not my problem," I said, shoving the box into my car. "I cannot sacrifice my entire life to fix her mistakes." Then Amber emerged from the basement. Her hair was a mess, but she was smiling, as if she thought this was all a spectacle. "Do not worry, Mom," she said. "If Claire wants to be selfish, let her go. We do not need a traitor in this family anyway." Jenna helped me load the rest of my stuff while my parents stood there telling me I had no heart. Amber watched as if she were enjoying a free show. I got in the car and drove away without looking back. Jenna's apartment was clean and quiet. No screaming, no manipulation, no drama, just peace. A few hours after I arrived, my phone started blowing up with messages. My parents, my aunts, my cousins, everyone calling and texting. Mom had already spread the word that I abandoned my pregnant sister. My Aunt Diane left me a voicemail asking how I could do something so terrible. My cousin messaged me on WhatsApp calling me selfish. Then I saw a post from Amber on Instagram. A picture of her baby bump with a caption about how some people run away instead of helping family. But her baby was going to learn what true love meant. I blocked her. I blocked everyone. Over time, my life settled into my new apartment. Weeks after moving out, I realized I had forgotten some important documents at my parents' house. My teaching certificate and my tax documents. I was going to need them for my tax return. I went back with Jenna and another roommate, Riley. Safety in numbers. My old bedroom was unrecognizable. Amber had moved her stuff in and mixed it with mine. There were random clothes in my drawers, little baby clothes scattered across my desk. Amber walked in holding a cup of coffee like nothing bothered her. "It is kind of hard to tell what is yours and what is mine now," she said, shrugging. "So you better not take anything." I pulled out my phone and showed her the pictures I had taken. "This is my bedroom before you touched it. Here is the list of everything I bought with the serial numbers for all the electronics." My parents showed up. Then Dad threatened to call the police if I took one more thing. "Go ahead," I told him. "I will tell them that my sister went into my room, used my things, and now you want to keep what belongs to me. That is theft." That shut him up immediately. With Jenna and Riley helping, we packed up everything that was mine. When Amber tried to claim my computer was hers, I showed her the receipt from the electronics store and the serial number. The only one trying to keep what does not belong to her is you, I told her. You tried to steal my time, my freedom, and turn me into your unpaid nanny. That is not going to happen. I walked out with all my things and never went back. Almost 12 months passed since I left. Almost 12 months of peace and quiet in Jenna's apartment. No drama, no blackmail, no one demanding that I sacrifice my life for someone else's choices. During that time, Amber had her baby, a little girl. I found out through family gossip, not because anyone told me directly. I did not reach out to her, and honestly I had no desire to. According to the few relatives I still talked to, things had fallen apart exactly as I said they would. My parents were now providing full-time care for Amber's daughter. They were the ones getting up in the middle of the night to feed her, the ones changing diapers, the ones doing everything, and they were exhausted, completely defeated. Amber was not even trying to look for a job. She claimed she was too stressed out with the baby to work. But from what I heard, she spent most of her time on social media posting pictures of the baby and ignoring the actual responsibilities of taking care of her. She was still living in my parents' basement. The remodel they started was never finished. They had spent a huge chunk of their retirement savings on it and ran out of money halfway through the project. So Amber was living in a half-finished basement with a crying baby, while my parents bent over backwards trying to keep everything together. Exactly what they had tried to force on me, they were now living themselves. My parents tried to contact me several times. At first the messages were angry. Text messages about how ungrateful I was, how I abandoned my family right when they needed me most. When anger did not work, they switched to manipulation. Messages about how the baby needed me, how I was missing out on the chance to be an aunt, how family is supposed to stick together. The final strategy was sending me pictures of my niece with texts about how every little girl needs an aunt in her life. I blocked them on social media. I set up filters in my email so their messages would go straight to the trash. I was done with their manipulation. One night, Jenna asked me if I ever felt guilty about all of it. Not a bit, I told her. Really, not at all. They had a choice. They could have respected my boundaries. They could have asked me to babysit every once in a while like normal people do. See the little girl for a few hours on a weekend. I would have said yes. I love kids. That is why I became a teacher. But they demanded it. They threatened to raise my rent if I did not become a full-time, unpaid nanny. They tried to blackmail me into handing over my entire life for Amber's mistake. So no, I do not feel guilty. And I meant it. I really did not feel guilty. The thing is, if my parents had been reasonable, none of this would have happened. If they had treated me like a real person with my own life instead of an automatic solution to Amber's problem, I would have helped sometimes. I would have been a good aunt. I thought about reaching out to them once, just once. It was late at night, I had a glass of wine, and I was feeling sentimental. I actually opened a new email and started typing, but then I stopped and asked myself what would really change if I contacted them. Would they apologize? Would they admit they were wrong? Would they respect my boundaries from now on? The answer was no. They would just see it as me giving in. They would take it as permission to start up with the demands all over again. So I deleted the email and blocked their numbers once more. I heard from my Aunt Diane that my parents kept asking about me, kept trying to find a way to contact me. They even went to my old school once, but I had already warned the front office not to let them in. Aunt Diane was one of the few people I still spoke to. She did not judge me for leaving. She understood. Your parents are having a hard time, she told me on one of our calls. But that is not your fault. They made their own choices. And how is Amber doing? Same as always, posting on social media, acting like mother of the year, letting your parents do all the real work. Sounds like her. They keep asking me to convince you to come back. I tell them you are an adult and you make your own decisions, that if they want a relationship with you, they have to apologize and change their behavior first. Thank you. I am proud of you, Claire. You had the courage to stand up for yourself. I appreciated her telling me that because sometimes late at night I did wonder if I had done the right thing, if maybe I should have toughed it out and helped, but then I remembered the threats, the manipulation, the complete lack of respect for my time, my career, my life. And I remembered that standing up for myself was not selfishness, it was necessary. Over time, my life kept getting better and better. I had my own space, good roommates, a job I loved, and zero family drama. I made it clear to my parents through Aunt Diane that I was not interested in rebuilding the relationship unless they acknowledged what they had done and genuinely changed. Months kept passing and my life looked completely different. Better, much better. I am still teaching second grade and I actually got a raise this year. My principal nominated me for a Teaching Excellence Award. I did not win it, but just being nominated felt good. It felt like recognition for the work I actually do. Jenna and I get along very well as roommates. Sometimes we cook together, watch movies on the weekends, have normal conversations that do not involve guilt trips or manipulation. Her boyfriend comes over sometimes and the three of us hang out. It is a peaceful environment. I have also been saving real money this time, without my parents threatening to raise the rent or Amber eating all my groceries. I am seriously building up money in my savings account. I am thinking about getting a place of my own in a year or so, maybe a small apartment. Last week one of my students gave me a drawing she made. It was a picture of me with a big smile standing at the front of the classroom. At the top she wrote, "Best teacher in the world," with a purple crayon. I stuck it on the fridge and thought that exactly this was what really mattered, making a difference in kids' lives, having a job I cared about, building a life I was proud of. Not providing unpaid full-time childcare for my sister's daughter, just because my parents decided I owed them something. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how things ended up, if I wish I had handled everything differently. The answer is no. I do not regret it at all because this is what I learned from all of it. Boundaries matter, your time matters, your life matters. My parents saw me as the solution to Amber's problem, not as a person with my own goals and responsibilities. They did not ask for my help, they demanded it. They threatened me when I said no. And that is not how family is supposed to work. If they had been reasonable, everything would be different. If they had said to me, "Hey Claire, would you be willing to watch the baby for a few hours on Saturday mornings?" I would have said yes. I love kids. After all, that is what my career is about. But they did not want a few hours of help. They wanted me to be a full-time, unpaid nanny on top of my full-time job as a teacher. They wanted me to give up my afternoons, my weekends, my entire life. And when I refused, they tried to punish me by raising my rent, so I left and I do not feel bad about it. Aunt Diane called me yesterday. She said Amber is still not working, still living in the basement, still letting my parents do everything. The baby is 6 months old now and my parents seem to have aged 10 years. "They are asking about you again," Aunt Diane told me. I told them the same thing as always, that you are doing well, and that if they want to talk to you, they need to apologize first. Have they? No, your dad says he has nothing to apologize for, that you are the one who abandoned the family. I was not surprised. My parents were never going to admit they were wrong. That would mean acknowledging that they had treated me unfairly my whole life, that they always put Amber first and expected me to just accept it. "And how are you really doing?" Aunt Diane asked. "Honestly, I am doing great. I am happy. My life is exactly how I want it to be. I am glad. You deserve it." After hanging up, I sat on the couch thinking about everything that had happened, the threats, the manipulation, the guilt trips, sneaking out to move and blocking everyone. Some people might think I overreacted, that I should have helped because that is what family is for. But those people do not understand what it is like to be treated as less important your entire life. Watching your parents pay for your sister's college twice while you work at a fast food joint to pay for yours. Watching them fix her car and pay her rent while you handle everything on your own. Finally achieving something stable and good only for them to try and turn you into a free nanny. I stood up for myself. I defended my boundaries. I chose my well-being over their demands and I do not regret that. My cell phone buzzed. A message from Jenna asking if I was craving Thai food for dinner. I replied yes and smiled. This is my life now, simple, quiet, drama-free. A life where I make my own decisions and do not apologize for having boundaries. My parents and Amber created their own situation. They chose manipulation over respect, they chose demands over requests. Now they are dealing with the consequences of those choices and I am finally free. Comment. This story really touched me, and I wanted to share something honest with all of you. Standing up for your own well-being is never selfish. It's one of the most important ways we show respect for ourselves. Setting healthy boundaries protects your peace and allows real healing to begin. We can still be kind and loving without completely losing ourselves. Taking responsibility for your own happiness is something we all owe to ourselves. I hope you take a quiet moment to reflect on where you might need stronger boundaries in your relationships. Choosing calm and freedom over constant guilt is a brave and powerful decision. You deserve a life that feels safe, balanced, and truly yours. I'm right here cheering you on as you learn to protect your peace and live with more self-respect. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.